Trustees meeting of October 7th, the approval of the bills, and a resolution to become a party to the Joint Emergency Telephone System Board, otherwise known as ETSB. Would anyone like to separate any of those items off of the consent agenda, or do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Chief, on the ESTB, are we gonna, are our payments from the 911 system now going to go to the ESTB that we're actually using?
Yes.
And so our dispatch cost is going to go theoretically down?
Yes, as soon as we figure out how much we'll be getting.
That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Okay, I think I need a roll call for this, please.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson?
Aye.
Trustee Rath? I'm sorry, Trustee Smith?
Aye.
And Trustee Trevino?
Aye.
Motion can pass.
Thank you. Next order of business, rather, is the Finance Director's report. Director Vasquez, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few items for my report tonight. First, a quick update on the accounting manager position. We've had the position posted and advertised for a few weeks now. And this week we will start screening for an initial round of interviews. We continue to make use of contracted assistants for accounting and accounts payable to help the day-to-day activities of the finance department stay on schedule during this interim period while we're looking for the accounting manager. Chief and I have been working on our budgets. In the next week or so, I hope to have a better idea of when I will have information to share to help the board make an informed decision about the property tax levy to be collected next year. While we can approve our appropriations and budget in the first quarter of 2026, the tax levy needs to be submitted to Lake County by late December. We recently had a call with Alliant, our insurance broker, to discuss the renewal proposal for the new insurance period starting December 1st. That proposal should be on schedule to be presented at the next board meeting. And finally, we have scheduled the annual TIF Joint Review Board meeting for October 30th at 10:30 a.m. The annual TIF reports have been submitted to the State Comptroller's office as well. And that's all I have for tonight.
Are there any questions for our Finance Director, please? Thank you. Next, Treasurer's report. Our Treasurer is with us this evening.
Why is it so tricky? So tricky.
Okay, this is pretty much as of today's numbers as well. Our current portfolio has a total value. This is not the banks and the savings and the checkings and the daily accounts, but the managed from JP Morgan. Has a value of about 12.2 million. This is the fair market value. A lot of it, since it's in bonds, will insure for a little bit of a different plus or minus due to discounts and premiums we've paid. But basically, that portfolio has been pretty consistent at that level. And the yield to maturity on the current investments is just shy of 4%, 3.915. I'll also say that number will probably go up because we have, I'll go through this section in a minute, of renewals or redemptions coming forward in the next, I just went through the end of the year. We have quite a bit in January of 26 coming mature. But we also had set aside originally a good segment of money for the project on Deerfield Road, which now I guess we can free up. We'll decide between Tony and will give me a number of what liquidity they want immediately available to stay in cash. But we have about 4 million that I would imagine will probably go down to 2, and we'll get another 2 million at today's rates, which are still in that 4% neighborhood. The portfolio is made up in percentage. 43% are in CDs. Each CD is held to the full limit of FDIC approval, so there's really no risk on a CD regardless of the quality of the issuer, but we have not had one default to date. 37% is in corporate bonds. Again, all of our corporate bonds are highly rated, and the duration is very short term on those. We have municipals at just under 10%, and agencies right at about 10% too. Agencies meaning Freddie Mac, Home Loan Bank, things, more government-backed securities. The maturities we're going to have coming up will be 2 bonds in November. I'm sorry, 1 bond in November and 2 in December, which should free up about $1.2 million, which we will just turn around and reinvest right away. And those are at fairly lower rates, just under 3.5% yield to maturity. So hopefully we'll get a little bit better rate on that. The overall cash flow right now for the next, I think it's a 9-month period, is expected to be somewhere around $260,000 that we'll earn on our investments, which the current policy, it used to be we shifted them as they matured into the cash account, but we're not doing that on a regular basis, letting them stay there to being reinvested. And we'll continue that unless there's a need for cash beyond what we have in our daily amounts. And I think there's a decent amount in the current accounts that we want to put into more of the investment pool than the sitting there in the daily pool too. But as soon as the budgeting and everything comes around, we'll identify those amounts. So all in all, it looks good. The yields are nice, competitive with market rates right now. And the average maturity on this, and this is all on a very short-term rate of about 1.57 years is the average maturity of the whole portfolio. So we're still within our 2 to 3, and the yield curve has been such that it really doesn't make much of an advantage to go out further than that. Sometimes we're getting a better yield on a 6-month, a year. I don't like to go 6 months because it gets very repetitive, but at least a year to 2 years in that length. So we have flexibility. The only thing that would probably retrospect make us look bad is if rates drop tremendously and we have all short-term yields and we're not out 2 or 3 years. So we might spread them out a little bit, but I don't think from recent statistics anybody's expecting a huge drop in interest rates, maybe 1/4 point to 1/2 point for the rest of the year at that rate. But that's already baked into our market for the most part. I think that's it.
Do we have any questions for our treasurer? Trustee Jamerson, please.
Just for the edification of the people in the audience and for people that might be watching at home or watch this video later on. Not a good portion of that money is in restricted funds, correct? I mean, our restricted funds, the sewer fund, the water fund.
Oh, yes.
Correct?
Right. You have your balance sheet presentation of assets, and then you have the actual management of them.
Right. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't, when you say we have $12 million, it's not that we have $12 million to spend tomorrow on whatever. I mean,
Correct.
a lot of that money is restricted in funds that we can't take it out except for what it's for the sewer or for the water.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that people understand that, because sometimes people say, well, you have $12 million. Why are my taxes where they are?
Exactly. When you look at the balance sheet, that would be a different allocation of available funds and restricted funds, which I'll leave to those smarter than me. And I'll just worry about the yield on these. But yes, that's.
But I just wanted to make sure that people understood that. Thank you.
Right. We're not sitting there with $12 million to arbitrarily sit on.
Good point. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank
Should I
you.
leave this
Nice
on?
to see you. Okay, moving on. Director of Community Services report. Director Witt, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So start with our favorite project, Saunders Road STP. GHA contacted IDOT again this week regarding the status of the Saunders Road project. The response came back that IDOT counsel says the project is quote unquote on hold. We understand there are 23 other projects that IDOT has currently with Builders Paving that are in the same status. This is due to the litigation going on between the two parties. In some ways, that's really good for us because This gives Lake County an opportunity to reconstruct their lift station prior to us actually starting on Saunders Road. Unfortunately, the bids they received within the last week came in $2 million over the $5 million budget, and they have to repackage it and get it back out. But they still anticipate that they will start construction in the spring of '26. With regard to better news for us on Saunders Road, the water main break at Brayburn, contractors started mobilization yesterday. They anticipate being done with the project by the end of this week. So condensed what would have been over a 2-week project down to just under a week. Thorngate, after a close review of the 2 proposals that we had received about 2 weeks ago, Huff and Huff was the vendor that was selected. We're working with them. Boring should be completed within the next 2 to 4 weeks, and the soils analysis that they're going to prepare for us should be completed about 2 weeks thereafter. At that point in time, we'll be able to really dive into the root cause of what's going on with the Thorngate water main system. And the last piece I've got is the last meeting, the board approved the fire hydrant flushing and exercising work. That work has been completed by GHA. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for our director? Thank you. Attorney's report.
Just a quick update on Quick Trip Corporation, which appeared before the board a while back and was eager to annex into the village. We've been working on probably an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement that we have with Lake County. We've put in a request to Lake County to supply water and sewer to these developments on the east side of Milwaukee Avenue. It turns out that because of recent improvements to the infrastructure over in the Picara subdivision, it would be possible for Quick Trip to auger under Milwaukee Avenue, connect to sewer, and connect to water, get Lake Michigan water. There are many details to be ironed out. We've done work with the county on understanding what additional documents they need. The county's been looking into getting some easements from Quick Trip and some others. The board may not know, but the county is planning to completely replace a major force main that runs between Port Wine and Lake Cook all the way to Milwaukee Avenue. It just goes behind the Quick Trip parcel. And so there's a lot of back and forth about what the parties need from each other. The village is trying to facilitate all these discussions. So I just wanted to give you a little, just a summary. That's what we've been up to. It probably will be before the board, I hope, in a couple of months, depending on how quickly we can get through all these agreements.
Are there any questions for our attorney, please? Okay, moving forward, police report. Chief?
I just have the police activity that is in your packet.
Are there any questions for our chief? Thank you. Plan Commission report. Our chair isn't able to be with us this evening, but perhaps our director might have a couple of words about the recent Plan Commission meeting.
Certainly. We actually discussed 2 items. There is a discussion that was held subsequently going to public hearing on the raising of equine animals within the village. We're going through some reviews of new regulations that might allow people to house mini horses on certain size properties. And then the other piece, we were working with Tesca Associates. Michael Blue is in the audience tonight, talking about the integration of the sustainability plan and the comprehensive plan. So by the time of the next meeting, we should have a very succinct path for combining those 2 documents and moving forward with discussions and action on that.
Any questions? He might be, okay. Thank you very much. Zoning Board of Appeals did not meet. Fire District, our chief is not with us this evening. And information, items, and comments from the president. I sent you all the most recent results of the South Lake Mosquito Abatement District Board meeting, which was held on October 15th. And the first sentence really says it all. The next board meeting for the South Lake is to happen on November 10th. And at that meeting, an IGA and annexation agreement between the South Lake Mosquito Abatement District and the North Shore Mosquito Abatement District should be available for the board to vote on. That board is expected to vote positively, meaning the consolidation of those two districts would move forward. It's unlikely that the county board will act prior to that event. There is no Lake County board meeting scheduled prior to November 10th. If all goes as planned, all the assets and liabilities and contracts of the South Lake Mosquito Abatement District will be transferred to the North Shore Mosquito Abatement District. This is a very positive action. And the money that's in the bank, the South Lake money that's in the bank right now, will serve us well in terms of getting equipment and services in a larger district, in our district. The transition's expected to be going over a year or maybe two, where Clark will be involved and actually working side by side with the North Shore people in order to learn, especially Riverwoods, to learn our streets and map out all of the drainage areas and standing water that we have. So the transition should help services be maintained at the current high level that we expect from the South Lake District. I have met with, and Director Witt and Attorney Huvard and I met with the North Shore Mosquito Abatement District prior to the meeting on the 14th. And it was a very positive meeting, other than finding out that somebody doesn't like to see mosquitoes bite. The intern who is working on biological things that have to do with which mosquitoes are, apparently a lot of the repellents just don't work anymore. They're becoming very desensitized, if you will, to those things. So they're developing those kinds of things there for use. They will continue to have a focus on larvicide as opposed to spraying. Spraying is not their preferred method. They would prefer to larvicide and not have mosquitoes hatch. So again, it's all very positive, and I don't know what could happen in the meantime, but then I didn't envision any of this in the first place. What I do want to say is that when I came to office in May of 2021, Roger Simonson alerted me to the fact that there was a transition, or there was a movement afoot to dissolve the South Lake Mosquito Abatement District. This effort has been going on since 2021, and Roger Simonson was dogged in his, you got to pay attention, you got to pay attention. As a result, we started going to the meetings. Laura Trevino and Rich Kumjian joined me at those meetings, and were active in actually doing the decennial report for the South Lake Mosquito Abatement District. And then when it came time to go and testify, Sarah Merritt, Randy Merrill, Les Raff, Laura Trevino, we're all right there on point. And Andy Eastman has been my partner through this. He has attended meetings and been very helpful in connecting with our current member on the Lake County Board, Ann Main. So it's been a lot of effort and a lot of time, but I'm fingers crossed this will move ahead, and our village, the benefit to our village will continue to be to have science-based, environmentally sound mosquito abatement processes. And here's the big plus, we expect that, well, it's $24 on my tax bill. We expect that to go down. So, yeah, I know. Can you believe it? So at any rate, all this is very good news, and we can only hope that there is nothing to happen to to disrail, upset the apple cart, as a good Midwest. Yeah. Trustee Eastman, please.
I just add one thing, since the mayor is too humble to talk about it, but one thing in our working group with neighboring municipalities was the mayor of Highland Park noted Chris's contributions and kind of vision in pushing this forward. So I think that should be noted. And, you know, it has been a long road, but I think it's led to a positive outcome. And I think it's also led to, you know, better relations with our neighboring municipalities and figuring out how we can work together on something that shouldn't be this complex, but turned out to be relatively complex. So I just wanted to be sure that was recorded.
Thank you. Any questions on the South Lake? I know it's a little early for the party, but I will let you know. It is party material, by the way. Having said that, we did talk again, and I've talked to the board members about the committee of the whole. And in front of you is a proposed agenda for the next committee of the whole, which is just simply discussion of board topics. The thing that says draft. Yeah. Because as I was talking and having conversations, it seems like it needs to be a time where we can just bring items up. And sometimes you can think of those in advance, and sometimes they just are sort of spurred by the discussion. So those should be full and open discussions for the board to have. And as issues come up, we will decide as a group how we're going to approach those. The time will remain the same. It will be the first meeting of the month at 6:30. So just to let you know, that was the result of what we talked about last time, which was that I would get a sense of the board and look for opinion. So having said that, all of that, we can go to, oh, there was one more thing I want to tell y'all. Sometimes I think, again, just to add to what's going on around town here, we've had some follow-up with the fire department. We're going to try to urge them forward on plans for the future. I've been asked a number of times, as I'm sure the trustees have, what's going on. It's going on. So we're going to try to urge them forward. We've had some discussions involving next steps for not only sustainability, but the community survey, and we've engaged our village planner, Tesca, in some of those conversations. We hope to engage them going further. Cost share, we focused a little bit on cost share. We're going to do a closer review of that and see how that might change. I think there have been some changes. Getting the forms for some work that I'm going to have done on our property, the forms may not be quite up to date. So we'll take a stronger look at that. Just saying. Stormwater Committee, we did a little follow-up with that. We're going to re-engage with GHA. We separated the pollution issue from the stormwater issue. We've followed up with the school district about the after-school programs and that Trustee Jamerson brought up. We're doing a well survey again this fall to check the depths on wells around the village. Under the drought conditions, we want to take a good look at that. A reporter called me, and I understand it's already in the newspaper about Discover and the campus, what's going on, because they've publicly now announced layoffs. The number that was in the newspaper that he gave me was 600. That is not the number that is affecting the Riverwoods campus. The Riverwoods campus, they're only about a third of, will be affected, about a third. So 600, a third of that is about 200 or so. And well over half of those people are working remotely anyway. So the impact on our village is really minimal at this point. Not saying we're not concerned about what's going on the campus, we certainly are, but it's not something that's happening today, and we're not surprised by this. And South Lake we've talked about. So just wanting to keep you up to date a little bit. I know you hear from our directors about what's covering their desk, so I thought I'd share a little bit about what's on my desk, and then I would also ask our clerk for a little update on things that she's becoming involved in.
Thank you, Mayor. Among one of the more interesting things I'm working on, as previously reported, is last Wednesday we had a cohort meeting with the fourth cohort of the EV readiness program through the Mayor's Caucus. So at this stage now, I'm working on with help with Director Witt going over our zoning self-assessment. So they have like a bunch of questionnaires and things that we have to answer, try to gather, where we are with that. Another interesting thing is I got a call from a UIC grad school student who is interning at the Village of Kenilworth. And she asked if we can help them gather a bunch of data. Kenilworth in 2022 had a study done and identified Riverwoods, Kenilworth, Inverness, and Oakbrook Terrace as our comparables. I don't know what they're using for that, but anyway, so I'm helping, working with the department heads to gather that information, that data, and then they're going to give us the report at the end when they're done at the end of December, because they're working on putting together performance metrics for Kenilworth. So some of that information may be used for us. So that was one of the more interesting things I'm working on.
And the Monarch Pledge.
Yes, the mayor renewed the application and went through, so we're still working on that.
Any questions for us from the trustees? Okay, thank you very much. Are there visitors here wishing to address the board on items other than what's on the agenda? Randy, great.
Hey, good evening, Randy Merrill with RPC. Wanted to report in that a few weeks ago we had our Reese-O-Rama event, and it was still very well received. We probably had about 85 residents and non-residents come over and drop off items. Every year, certain things are more popular than others. Funniest thing, we usually have tons of stuffed animals. This year, not many stuffed animals, but we did have a lot of bikes and books and whatever. But we did manage to divert almost 1 ton of items that would be in the landfill today if we hadn't done that. We also gave away some of the Hefty Renew sample bags and some native seeds that we actually scooped of yours, Mayor, and gave them out to everybody that came through. We are excited that we got to participate in a buckthorn seminar. Thank you, Danny, for helping us kind of get a connection with them. We were a little disappointed with the response, the amount of people that turned out. I want to say maybe there was 14 or 15 people. The presentation was fabulous. It is available on YouTube, and we're going to post that both, I think, on our village's email as well as RPC, our email and website. It did really talk about how you can do this on your own and what products to buy. So again, a little bit of conflict of what we might have thought was the case before, but it clearly tells you which products should you want to do that, which for us would be great considering people are using village money on our cost share program to remove buckthorn and then they're not maintaining it. If it was as easy as maintaining a little growth, maybe that education would help us all and be able to combat the situation. So also we have successfully submitted our application for reinstatement for Tree City, waiting for our final approval. And that will then require us to have an annual little event. We will do that in April again, like this year. If you remember, we did a tree planting. We planted 2 oaks that RPC contributed to the village. And then we videotaped that with Evan Shore from Bartlett Tree, as well as gave a little how to be able to transplant some oaks that are growing on your property. So real celebration and an acknowledgement. So we're going to work close with the village on that and probably do a little something every April, which is also around Earth Day and Arbor Day. Thank you.
Any questions for the chair of our RPC? Okay. Moving on, is there anyone else wishing to address the board? Okay, moving on to new business. First item of business is approval of a donation to the Center for Enriched Living in the amount of $5,000. And we have with us our executive director from CEL, Herb Washington.
Mayor Ford, Village of Riverwoods Board, good evening and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. On behalf of the Center for Enriched Living, I want to express our deep appreciation of the village's continued partnership. Your steady support really makes a difference. It reflects Riverwood's commitment to inclusion and to well-being of all of its residents, including those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. CEL, in part because of your support over the years, continues to see meaningful growth in both the numbers of people we serve and the scope of our programs. As a matter of fact, as of July 1st of this year, we acquired the NORA Project, which is an organization dedicated to teaching school-age kids, K through 12, about disability and inclusion, providing teachers with inclusive curriculum, and providing professional development and learning to teachers about inclusive classroom best practices. We now provide more than 150,000 hours of direct programming and support to nearly 500 members, including Scotty, making strong increase from the previous year. And that growth isn't just in terms of numbers, it's in terms of outcomes. More people gaining skills, friendships, and confidence to lead independent, fulfilling lives. Every hour of programming represents a step toward greater inclusion, whether it's a member learning to manage money, preparing for a job, or simply feeling connected to others in their community. Our home base obviously is right here in Riverwoods, and that is central to our success. For those who haven't been, our 20,000 square foot, fully accessible, universally designed facility is at 280 Saunders Road. Welcomes people into this community, to Riverwoods every single day. Families, staff, volunteers who see this village as a place that welcomes and values all people. So your investment helps sustain that inclusive community spirit. As I've mentioned before, you've been an essential part of CEL's story. Your consistent support has helped us expand our reach and strengthen our impact. So much so that we are currently exploring the acquisition of a second programming location in this community, so we can continue to scale impact right here in Riverwoods. We've submitted, obviously, requests for your consideration in line with what we've submitted in the past, and we're deeply grateful for your consideration. As we continue to grow, serving more people with disabilities and families each year, we look forward to exploring ways to expand this partnership between CEL and the village in ways that will lead to new community collaborations, shared initiatives, and making sure that CEL, as part of the Riverwoods community, remains an inclusive place for everyone. So finally, I'll close by just saying, on behalf of all the families, members, volunteers, staff, I want to say thank you. Thank you for believing in our mission, being such a strong partner in building a community where everyone belongs. Appreciate your continued support, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval, please?
Oops, a motion to approve.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments for our director?
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Trustee Smith.
Aye.
Trustee Trevino.
Aye.
And Trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Motion passes.
You should know that when trustees are absent, we do share the agenda with them ahead of time. And both of the trustees who are absent this evening are supportive. So just so you know, it would have been a unanimous if they had been present.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next item of new business, approval of a professional services agreement with Tesca Associates for general community planning services. Director Witt, please.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, Tesca Associates has been performing over many years, planning and associated technical and professional support for the village in various projects. The attached agreement that is in front of you tonight for approval is essentially an overarching agreement to which we would look at just doing addendas on a project-by-project basis. Part of the intent here is really gives us better tracking of the projects that are going on. It helps us with invoicing, and it is certainly part of our paperwork reduction plan so that we don't have 20 pages of a contract coming in front of you every time we have a new project. So those are the minor pieces. In reality, what we're looking to do is continue this great relationship with Tesca by having this contract in place that, shows good faith on both parts for the services they do provide for us.
Is there a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Trustee Smith?
My only question is, how do the hourly rates that are included here compare to the prior contract?
Michael, do you know that? According to Michael Blue, who is with Tesca Associates, the dollar amounts are the same as what they were in the past.
Great, thank you.
Trustee Jamerson?
Thank you. And just to clarify, it's basically just an hourly cost for whatever they're going to do for us, right? I mean, there's no total on this, so I'm just assuming it's.
What we are looking at is no different than what we're trying to establish with GHA as well. Each of these projects that we're looking at, just as an example, one that we've been talking about before would be the Deerfield screening. We're looking at something which would say either a lump sum number or something at an hourly rate with a not to exceed type of deal. Some of them may be just an hourly rate depending on, what that scope of work actually is. Sometimes it's hard to look at something that's going to be a 1 to 2 year project and it's involving minimal amount of time as we go along. So each of these tasks would have a separate addenda, which would be brought forth to the board for an approval so that you know upfront what these numbers are going to be. But you'll only see it as one piece of paper instead of, the 15 or 20 sheets that we've had in the past.
So it's like a master contract and then you'll have addendums for each project.
Essentially, it's a principal contract to which these would be addendas to.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Comments? Roll call, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Trevino?
Aye.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And thank you for being present this evening for questions. Michael Blue, if some of you haven't met, he is from Tesca. I'm sure you've seen him before, but just being a little bit formal here. Thank you. Next item of business, approval of a contract for accounting services with Lauterbach and Amon in an amount not to exceed $10,000. Director Vasquez, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So this is essentially the same as the contract with Lauterbach and Amon that was brought in early September. I know that there was a question from the board last time about the way the contract was worded. Instead of being a not to exceed, it was essentially a lump sum with up to that number of hours. And I did say I would use those hours, and I made good on that promise. We still have a need for these accounting services while we continue to look for a new accounting manager. I did talk with Lauterbach and Amon about the language, and they did kind of as a firm change how they structure their contracts to this type of language. I think they're trying to avoid, a client maybe saying, "Oh, we'd like to get you for up to 30,000 or 40,000," but then not fully commit, and then they're having a hard time filling those hours that they were counting on. So in light of that, I did let them know that I understood their reasoning, but because of that, I was going to look to keep these on the smaller side because I don't want to overcommit the village with the hopes of being able to kind of quickly fill that position and eliminate the need for this to be an ongoing service. But I did want to give an update on that.
Is there a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Just thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it because it was my question the last time.
Any other? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Trevino?
Aye.
Trustee Eastman?
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Last item of new business is discussion and possible approval of a utility billing policy for high water bill adjustments. Director Vasquez, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. At our October 7th meeting, the board voted and instructed village staff to draft a policy for adjusting a high water utility bill that was caused by a leak. And I put together a memo. I'm just going to go over kind of the guidelines that staff is recommending in order to have someone, if this were enacted, to be able to qualify for this program. So I'll read through those. The account holder would provide a copy of an invoice from a licensed plumber or contractor showing that the issue causing the leak has been repaired. This can help give some assurance that it wasn't just a spigot that was left on or something, that there's some record that there was an issue that was addressed and that it was addressed professionally and correctly. The account holder would need to sign up for the Ion Water program. This is the program that allows our water users to see and receive alerts about their usage, if anything is out of the ordinary, or just be more aware of how they're using water. By having them sign up for this free service, it helps ensure that any future spikes in water usage they might have for any reason are caught quickly. It's advantageous to everyone to have more people sign up for this because we don't want more of these situations. A third item was that an adjustment would only be allowed once in the history of an account. I know that we have not had a policy like this in place, and we certainly don't want a policy that opens the door for people to keep, not to say abuse the policy, but to keep bringing items again and again. And again, by having them sign up for Ion Water, even if there was one issue, hopefully they would catch a future issue quickly. But this is just another way to kind of make sure that if something like this was enacted, that we're not seeing many adjustments being requested. Well, the fourth item is that we would have only residential accounts qualify to request an adjustment and to not include commercial accounts. The fifth item is that if the adjusted amount is still high for the account holder to pay, that village staff can work out an agreeable payment plan for them to pay off the balance. And finally, the sixth item is that the request for an adjustment must be made within 1 month of the date of the utility bill in question when it's issued. We don't want to open the door to someone pulling out a bill from a couple of years ago, or getting a bill, paying it, and then deciding 6 months later, that was kind of high, and that we would really like to get them to address the issue quickly. And finally, kind of based on the direction from Trustee Jamerson, the adjustment would be made by finding the difference between the high bill water usage and the average of the last 3 bills that were issued for that same time period in the same quarter as the high bill. If the account holder did not have a 3-year history, then the average would be taken from their 3 highest water usage bills. The average amount calculated in that step would be billed at the current village water rates. Then that rate just increased from $9.87 to $10.26 in October. The amounts over that average would be billed at the current wholesale rates that we pay to our water supplier, currently Northbrook. The difference from the total of these 2 numbers would be credited back to their utility account as an adjustment. So for the entire bill of high usage, that account holder would be paying the wholesale rate for all of that water, plus for the average amount of their bill compared to their history, they would also be paying the higher village rate to help address overhead maintenance and future infrastructure needs. And
I think there was there was an example, I think, attached to those as well. So that
I did run,
situation. Yeah, sorry.
I did run the numbers on the situation with the high bill that was discussed at the last public meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And in that instance, the original bill amounts would be adjusted down by about, let's see here. The original amount was billed about $3,500, and the total of the new adjusted bill would be roughly $2,500.
Yeah, roughly $1,000. So, discussion first, and then we can, if we want to craft something different. Trustee Eastman, please.
Sure. I just had a question. Do we have a sense for how many people might potentially take advantage of this and what our budget would be roughly for, on a yearly basis for this?
So it can be difficult to predict that. I know in my 2 years here, I believe this is the first one that's come to my attention of the question being asked and escalating to the points of senior staff becoming involved. That doesn't mean that in the future there might not be more. I did work a number of years at a village that had about 10,000 water utility accounts. And in a given year, I might see maybe a dozen requests come through. It can vary as far as the budget impact. I think one important thing to note is that the usage that they would have on the high bill that is above and beyond what they would normally pay for, the village is still requiring them to pay the wholesale rate in this draft policy. So even if they go well above and beyond what it normally would be, the amount that the village water fund would be out to pay to Northbrook is being paid for by the account holder.
So you feel comfortable that that's well within whatever reserves and other things that we have, set aside, that's not going to make any real impact on anything?
I would say that's correct because we require them to pay the wholesale rate.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Trustee Jamerson, please.
I thank you for putting this policy together. I think it's great. My only comment is point number 3, the once in the history of the account. Mm-hmm. And I only say that because we have a lot of residents that have been here for decades. And if somebody has a leak today and then they're here for another 15 years and they have another leak, I think it would be penalizing them to say, well, you've had your chance and that's it. So I think it would be, if we could say an adjustment is allowed only once every 5 years or 10 years. I don't know what the answer is, but you've lived here a really long time. I've been here 18 years. Thankfully, I have never had a leak like this, and I hope I never will. I will get on the eye on water as soon as my water bill comes, so I know what my account number is, because I did try to get on it, and you need your account number. So that would be my only comment. Other than that, I think everything else, I think the policy you drafted is spot on. So I don't know if you have a comment about that, or I understand we don't want repeat offenders because we don't want to have this constantly happening. Yeah. But I think once in the history of an account, that seems a little onerous on the owner.
No, I used the once in the history of an account because we were kind of moving from the current status quo where there is nothing to now there would be something that I wasn't sure what the board was comfortable with, but yeah. I think a 5-year amount of time, I think that sounds reasonable, but again, it's up to the board what direction you'd like to give.
That would be my only correction. If we could make it a 5-year or even a 10-year, I think that would be reasonable.
If I might, the landscape has sort of changed a little bit for us. We've got a lot of in-ground irrigation systems, and that's exactly where this leak had come from. So it really is truly hard to tell what will happen. I don't recall. I do know that many moons ago we did get a call saying your water bill is a little high, and it was a running toilet. I've got a guy who just wrote to me in the past month about why is my water bill so high, and it's very likely it was an internal leak in the system. It wasn't like something like water on the floor. It was going into a drain, but it was continually running. So it's the once in a lifetime kind of stuff seems a little harsh. I don't know how you account for that other than if there's a repeat offender, we bring it to the board. special review, special circumstances. I don't know how you would go about that. Your experience would be very helpful in that.
I would just say that, like any policy, especially with a new policy, I can certainly report back to the board on what the experience looks like after, 6 months or a year. And if, if we're experiencing more than we anticipated, or if more things are being uncovered, so that can always be changed. Not that we want to constantly have changes to the policy, but if the board decides that a certain amount of years is appropriate and in the future it no longer seems appropriate, that could always be addressed in the future.
Something about subsequent can be reviewed by,
Well, I was just going to say, if we want to leave it at once in the history of an account, and then maybe someplace say that it could be reviewed by the board if there's a repeat somewhere in the future. I don't know how you put that in the policy, but then at least they have someplace they could come back and say, this happened to me once before. I've got eye on water. I did this, but there's still, this happened. And I'm pleading mercy. I mean, at least they have someplace to come back to.
Or start at once every 7 years. It's kind of a jubilee kind of concept.
Sure, Jubilee works
It's
for me
between
too, but
5 and 10. And well, 7 years of lean, 7 years of plenty, 7.
I mean, I think if they have to get on the Eye on Water program, I mean, just because they have it doesn't mean I don't think it alarms them if they go over a certain amount. They do have to continually look at it, correct?
I would have to see the settings to see if there is a way for them to get alerts on anything out of the ordinary.
I'd be okay with this if you just said once in the history account, and then if there's a repeat, they could appeal to the board. At least then.
Yeah, somehow like a review. Yeah.
I mean, other than that, I think you're spot on.
Yeah. Trustee Smith,
But I understand the perspective and I can appreciate it, but isn't the ability to appeal to the board always there? So does it need to be stated?
That's a legal question.
I know.
You can always revise the policy. You can always change someone could come and ask for a waiver. The board, this is just a policy.
Yeah.
some kind of language for a waiver.
I don't think it's necessary to
Oh, you
have
don't?
it in.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying
But he's saying
Okay.
they could still appeal a policy.
you always have that right.
Oh, well, then leave it as is. I'm good with that. As long as there's a method for appeal, that's all.
I would, if I did receive in the future a repeat request, I would draft the adjustments the way I normally would, and then I would, circulate it to the board and say, this account holder had an adjustment for this in, 2026, and now it's 2028, and there was another incident, and leave it to the board's decision.
Okay. Under those conditions, is there a motion for approval of the policy?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Are there any other questions or comments? It's not money, but it's a policy. Roll call.
Trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson. Trustee Smith.
Aye.
Trustee Trevino.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, there being no old business, next item is board comments. Are there any comments from the board at this point? Ideas? Okay, moving forward, there is no reason to go into executive session. So we are going to establish Tuesday, November 4th at 6:30 for the next committee of the whole meeting, followed by a regular board meeting at 7:30. Do I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And good evening. Thank you. Nice to see people here. RRA, are you from the RRA? Just the
No, I think they're
No?
high school students.
high school students that have to be here? Laura knows.